Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Soulful Sessions with Rory, the podcast where we dive deep into the matters of the heart, mind, and spirit. I'm your host, Rory, and I'm thrilled to embark on this soulful journey with each and every one of you. Soulful Sessions is your safe space for introspection, inspiration, and maybe even a little revelation. Whether you're sipping your morning coffee, winding down after a long day, or just seeking a moment of connection, you're in the right place. Before we dive into today's soulful exploration, I want to remind you that Soulful Sessions with Rory is designed for entertainment purposes only. While we may touch on profound topics and meaningful discussions, it's important to approach our conversations with an open heart, a sense of curiosity. Life is a journey, and so is this podcast. We'll navigate the realms of self-discovery, spirituality, and personal growth. But remember, the insights we share here are not a substitute for professional advice or guidance. Always consult with the appropriate professionals regarding your unique circumstances. So whether you're a seasoned seeker or just dipping your toes into the waters of self-exploration, get ready for a blend of wisdom, laughter, and a touch of magic in each episode of Soulful Sessions with Rory. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a soulful moment. Follow me on social media, IG Soulful Explorer, Facebook Listening Veteran Life Coach, and Snapchat Rory Soulful Explorer. To stay connected, share your thoughts, and be a part of this incredible community. Now let the journey begin. Sit back, relax, and let's fill our souls together. Today's soulful episode is dealing with someone who has not dealt with their trauma. Man, first of all, let's talk about trauma. Trauma is where you've had an experience that has just lasting. It's just there. Trauma can be a variety of things. It could be a car accident. It could be a bad relationship. It could be abuse from a spouse or a parent. It can be feeling like you are not appreciated. It could be so many different things. And unfortunately for human beings, we all seem to deal with some sort of trauma. Whether it be getting passed up on a promotion that you didn't think the other person deserved. It could be, just no one taking you serious. It can just be a variety of things. So the Oxford Language Dictionary says trauma, a deeply distressing or disturbing experience, a physical injury. So we're talking about a deeply disturbing or stressful experience for the most part. So when you're dealing with someone who hasn't addressed their trauma, it can be very challenging, especially in a romantic situation. Because let's be honest, who shows up and says, "Hey, how you doing? My name is Rory, and I got a life full of trauma. I'm not going to tell you about it right now, but it's going to cause all kind of problems in our relationship." No, nobody does that. So what happens is that we do something where we're talking, we're dealing with this person, and I mean, everything could be great for months. And then all of a sudden, can't get that out. All of a sudden, something happens. That was a tongue twister. All of a sudden, something happens, and we are triggered. So, what does it mean to be triggered? Cause an event or situation to happen or exist. Something that caused an event or situation to happen to exist. Thank you, Oxford Dictionary. So they get triggered by something that we did, or they get triggered by an experience. So I'll give you an example. My grandmother passed years ago, and she was the person that taught me how to make sweet potato pie. And I remember I was standing in Walmart, and I was getting the ingredients for sweet potato pie, and all of a sudden I just start crying. I mean, for no reason, just bawling. Well, I was triggered. I was triggered by the idea of getting the ingredients for sweet potato pie of my grandmother's death. And I didn't put two and two together for a while. But once I did, I was able to deal with that feeling and those emotions. Now, that's a light one. That's a light one. What if you're dealing with someone who was, attacked? And it could be a sexual attack. It could be just a regular attack. It could be a man who was beat up by a group of guys and made to feel lesser than a man. It could be a man who was beat up by his older brother. It could be a man who was beat up by his mom, his dad. He was just attacked and made to feel small and weak. Or it could have been a verbal attack, an emotional attack, and he didn't have a voice. So he was made to feel small and weak. And here you are, his significant other, and one day you get upset and you start yelling. Why didn't you do that? You should have da 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 da. And you're going off, and you see something change in his eyes, that 30-yard stare, and you're looking like, whoa, something's not right. But you're in your emotions. You're not even paying attention to that. And this person is fuming, and they take something small and turn it into something big. And before you know it, you all in a full-blown argument about something that shouldn't have been. What you don't realize is that this person is not even arguing with you about what happened. This person is arguing with you about something totally different. And yet you're sitting in this space and you're going, oh my God, I can't believe that, we're having this argument. And so what do you do? What do you do? Because when it's over, things were said, things were done, and it's not a good space for either one of you. You're angry, you're upset. Well, let's say you let it go. But then something else happens, and something else happens. And you're swearing that this knight in shining armor now just became a dud, But something happens in a conversation where you learn he has a problem. But before we keep going, let's flip it for a second. Let's say it's a woman. You as a man, you're having a conversation with your girlfriend, your wife, your significant other, your side piece. I mean, no, not your side piece. Unless that was the problem, but we got other issues with that. So you're having this conversation and you say something along the lines of, hey babe, you need to do your hair more often. Oh my God. Now, what you didn't know was that you just triggered her. You triggered her into that 12-year relationship she had with some guy who constantly told her she wasn't good enough. She didn't look good enough. Or a mother that told her that she had to look like a princess every time she stepped outside. Or a father who said that real women comb their hair or look a certain way. You didn't know that. You just said, baby, why don't you do your hair? You were trying to say, I'm concerned because I've noticed that you haven't been doing your hair lately. Your grooming is different. What's going on, but that's not what you said. And so now you've triggered her. And her response is mentally, he doesn't want me. He doesn't appreciate me. He don't know. It could just go on and on and on and on because you were insensitive. You didn't know you were insensitive. You just thought you were doing something. So this is an example of how people with trauma could respond to a certain stimulant. And that stimulant that is words from somebody that they love. It could be a song. It could be music. It could be a smell. If you've ever had a situation dealing with sexual trauma and the perpetrator had a certain odor or even a certain perfume or cologne, whenever you smell it, you go back into that place. It gets dark. It doesn't matter who's around you. So you're thinking about these things. The people around this person don't know that this person is being triggered. So how do you deal with someone who has not dealt with their trauma? So here's the thing. If they're open to talking to you about it, the number one thing is to listen. Listen. Listen without judgment. Now, what does this mean? This means you're going to create a safe space for the person to share their feelings and experience. They didn't ask you for your opinion. They didn't ask you, to ask more questions. Well, how did it happen? Who was it? No, you have to allow them to tell you, because they may not be comfortable. And it has nothing to do with them trusting you. It has everything to do with them possibly being triggered even more. Because having to bring up this experience, whether it was a sexual trauma, whether it was abuse from a parent that was just emotional or even mental or just verbal, abuse of any kind can be difficult to deal with. So you got to let them know that you're willing to listen whenever they're ready to talk. And not sarcastically, not, well, when you finally ready. No, it's not up to you to help them get over their trauma. It's not up to you to say, well, you just got to suck it up. You got to deal with it. No, you have to be compassionate. So, number two is you got to be patient. Because if you're not patient, then this person is really looking at you from a fearful place. How can they trust you with their hurt? How can they trust you with their fears? And let's be clear, all trauma isn't about hurt. All trauma isn't about fear. Trauma can be about different things, so don't assume you know. Don't assume just because you went through the same type of trauma that person went through that you all should feel the same or act the same. There are men who have been sexually assaulted by women. And it's not the same as a woman being sexually assaulted by a man. It's still a violation, but it's not the same. Case in point, a woman being assaulted by another woman. A man being assaulted by another man. I mean, there's so many variables. You do not know or understand how that person perceived it. So do not think that you can tell them how to respond. So be aware of that. So be patient. Healing from trauma takes time, and everyone's journey is different. And that's basically what I was saying. So in order for that person to open up and to seek help, you have to be patient. You got to show them, I'm here for you. I'm here to support you on this journey. Now, yes, I'm a therapist, but I'm not saying this next part because I want some new business. Not at all. What I'm saying is you want to encourage professional help. You can't tell them you need to or you better. You have to lightly nudge. Hey, have you ever thought about talking to someone about this? Well, that's why I'm talking to you. No, a professional. Somebody that can help you navigate through these feelings, these emotions, this pain, this hurt, or whatever it is you're experiencing. Because suggesting seeing a therapist can change their lives. Professional guidance can provide the necessary tools with helping and teaching coping mechanisms for this trauma. So that's why I highly, highly encourage that you teach them to get professional help, right? Then you have to offer support. I mean, real support. Now, let me explain what I mean by real support. Sometimes people hear people's traumas and they go, oh, well, they should be over that by now. Like a death that happened 20 years ago. Oh, you should be over that. How do you know? You don't know the impact that death had on them. Oh, you were raped 5 years ago. You should be over. How do you know? Oh, the person that hurt you is dead. You should be over it. How do you know? You don't know the impact that it had on that person. So you offer them true support. One of the ways you can help support them is by suggesting, hey, if you need therapy, if you're going to therapy, I'll go with you. I'll walk point with you. I'll help you look up a good therapist. I'll help you vet that therapist. I've had situations where the client didn't call me. It was the wife sometimes. It was the mom sometimes. It was the grandmother. It was the brother, the cousin, with the client right there. And they would call me and talk, and it made them feel safe. So just remember that you can tell them you're there for them, and you just be a listening ear. They don't need your advice all the time. A suggestion is fine about going to get professional help, but telling them how they should respond or how they feel is a definite no. So don't do it. Not last but not least, I'm sorry. Another thing you need to do is educate yourself. You have to take the time to educate yourself about the trauma that they're experiencing, as well as the effects that it could have on them. Understanding the impact of trauma, this could actually be a game changer, because you not just only accompanying them to therapy, but you also letting them know that, hey, I have read about this and here's what I've learned. Now, it's important that you say, here's what I learned, because you're not trying to teach them or tell them, oh, I know how you feel. When you've gone through something, the worst thing somebody could say to you is, I know how you feel. So if I file bankruptcy and you never have, you don't know how I feel. Even if you did, you don't know to the extent that I felt it. So try not to say you know how they feel. you have now created informed empathy for them when you learn about the trauma and the impact that it can have on a person. So it's not just you blindly assuming that you can understand anything. So I think, and it shows them the level of support that you're willing to have for them. And I think that's super important. Now, the other thing is that you got to respect their boundaries. That one's hard because when you love someone, you don't want them to hurt. And so what if you have someone who had a trauma that triggered a self-harming response? Not suicide. I'm talking self-harming. Maybe they're a cutter, or maybe they drink or smoke or do whatever. You have to let them take the lead in their healing journey. You can't force your opinion or your belief system on them. You tell them how you feel about them wanting to get better, not about what they're doing. Because sometimes that's just going to put them more so in their hole. Because now it sounds like condemnation or judgment instead of acknowledging what's really going on, which is they're hurt. This person is hurting and they came to you for help. And instead of helping, you're judging. Oh, well, you're doing drugs, or you're promiscuous, you're having too much sex, or you're cutting yourself, or you're doing. Don't focus on what they're doing. Focus on the trauma and how you can help. Hey, let's get you some help. You told me you were hurting. Everything else will fall into place. Now I'm not saying don't mention to the point whereas you act like they're not doing anything. Because when you talk about help, let them know you get help with everything. But do not condemn them. Do not judge them. And learn how to just move forward in this space, right? Encourage healthy coping mechanisms. Now, I'm going to tell you, this one right here is actually kind of difficult. Because sometimes, let's be real, we've been through things, so we understand. We understand, like, why this man wakes up every morning and smokes weed and just sit there in this solemnness because his life has been shit. Or why this woman goes and she's promiscuous and she has sex with several partners just to take her mind off the stress and the anxiety. Or why this man is drinking alcohol, why this woman's drinking alcohol. Just after a long day of work, just having a glass of wine turns into a bottle of wine. Now, who am I to say that these are negative coping mechanisms? I'm not. But here's what I would ask you to do. Ask yourself, when you use these coping mechanisms, not necessarily do you feel good, but do you feel good about yourself? And is it causing harm to your body or to your mind? And does it alienate your family members? Does it alienate the people you love? Does it alienate your friends? See, because part of depression and anxiety, is that alienation. And when we do certain things, it's going to automatically alienate people and keep them away from us. I'm not going to say any names, but I know a few people out there that smoke weed and would swear up and down it brings people closer. We ain't going to talk about that. Everybody has their own personal choice. I don't judge anybody. Do your thing. Also, think about activities you could do that you normally didn't do, but maybe you wanted to do, like exercise. I believe in exercise. That one, even though it can be an addiction, that's a good one. Also, you can start a hobby. Maybe go play golf or basketball. Take walks in the park, play tennis, learn to play the guitar, learn to play the piano. Do things to stimulate your mind and do things that nobody can take from you. See, because we're in a space where sometimes we get so caught up that we don't realize everything we create can be taken. If you got a job, you could be fired or you quit or retire. In relationships, people die, you break up, or you walk away. And even if it's a family member. And then there's work. Work, you retire, get fired, or quit. I think I said that already. I did. There's school. With school, you can graduate, drop out, or just finish, so you lose those things. You got to create a hobby that nobody can take from you. And that's the kind of advice you give them. That's why you encourage a healthy coping mechanism and make sure they're getting rest. Well, you can't make sure, but suggest resting, trying to get some sleep, try to get at least 6 hours of sleep a day. I'm still working on that one myself. And last but not least, oh wait, it's not last. I keep saying that. I don't know. Maybe I just want to say last but not least. So, be understanding. Recognizing that dealing with trauma can affect a person's behavior, emotions, and relationships. Be patient and understanding of any changes you may notice in their behavior. So they may not know they're reacting to a trauma. So try to be understanding, be patient, be kind, be compassionate, show empathy, not sympathy, but empathy. And then just, try to be understanding. Last but not least, let them know that they are not alone. When we go through something, it's easy for us to say, nobody understands, nobody is here with me, nobody's walking this path, but how could we know if nobody ever says, hey, I'm here for you, I'm here with you in whatever capacity you need me to be. Just like I walk point with you with this podcast, I want you to walk point with those people and let them know, hey, I'm here for you. Now, all of this, dealing with someone who hasn't dealt with their trauma, they have to know they've experienced a trauma. And sometimes they'll tell you without even knowing that they told you. If you meet somebody who talks about a past relationship over and over again, and you can see the anger, the hurt, the frustration in their face, regardless if it's a romantic one or a familiar one, it's a relationship nonetheless that had a profound effect. If you meet someone who doesn't talk about anything, and they're just quiet all the time, and they're staring into space, and they're angry for no reason, they get road rage, or you meet somebody who's terrified of certain situations, whether it be the idea of having physical intimacy with their new partner or just going to apply for a loan at a bank. It's the small things that can tell you where somebody is mentally. So just make sure that you remind them they're not alone and that you're there and that struggle that they're experiencing, you see it. And you're here to help in whatever capacity that you can. I just want you to really just stop and think about it. But here's the one thing about dealing with someone who haven't dealt with their trauma. You also have to know your own limitations. You can't fix everybody. It's not your job. Offering support and help and assistance, let that be the extent of it. When you realize they don't want help, when you realize that they're taking out their frustrations and anger on you, you got to do what's best for you. Sometimes that's walking away. Sometimes that's sitting down with them and doing an intervention. There are so many different things, but you got to decide for yourself. I can't decide for you, but just know that through this podcast, I definitely support you. Thank you, beautiful souls, for joining me today on another enlightening episode of Soulful Sessions with Rory. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might benefit. As we navigate the depths of introspection, explore the boundless possibilities of the human spirit, remember that your journey is uniquely yours, and every twist and turn is a sacred part of your story. Embrace the whispers of your soul, and may the echoes of our conversations linger in your heart. Spark a flame of self-discovery. Until we meet again in the realm of shared wisdom, stay true to your essence, stay connected to the rhythm of your soul, and always remember that you are a masterpiece in the making. Wishing you love, light, and infinite possibilities on your soulful journey. Until next time, this is Rory signing off with gratitude and reverence for the magic that resides in each and every one of you.